So when you think about the future of cars, your mind probably jumps straight to electric, right? Hybrids seem like a smart stepping stone to get there. But what if I told you the original car of the future was actually electric, over 100 years ago? Yeah. The story of how we got from there to here is packed with some wild twists. Let's break down the tech that is totally changing the way we drive. Okay, so take a look at these two cars. On one side, you've got this sleek, modern, high-performance machine, and on the other, something that looks like it just rolled out of a black and white movie. But which one is which? Well, that might not be as obvious as you think. If you pointed to the old-fashioned one on the left, you nailed it. That's a 1914 Detroit Electric. And this one little fact just flips the whole script. Electric cars are not new, not even close. They were the originals, the pioneers of the road. To really get where we're headed, we've got to go back. I mean, way back, to the very beginning of the automobile itself, when the future of driving was, believe it or not, electric. The first very simple electric car was actually invented all the way back in 1834. Now, flash forward to the 1890s, and get this, electric vehicles were outselling gasoline cars 10 to 1. 10 to 1! So as the 20th century kicked off, it looked like electricity was the undisputed king of the road. Just let that number sink in for a second. 38%. That was the market share for electric cars way back in the year 1900. And you know why? They were quiet, they were easy to operate, and you didn't have to risk breaking your arm with a dangerous hand crank to start them. They were the peak of automotive luxury and convenience. In 1900, if you took electric cars and steam-powered cars and put them together, they made up almost 80% of the entire market. Gasoline, that was the noisy, smelly, difficult underdog. So, what on earth happened? Well, that brings us to the next chapter, the Great Takeover. This is where the internal combustion engine didn't just win, it basically erased the electric car from history for almost a whole century. It really boiled down to three key things that killed that first electric dream. First, in 1911, the electric starter motor was invented for gas cars. Boom, no more dangerous hand crank. Game changer. Second, you've got Henry Ford and his assembly line. He made the Model T so ridiculously cheap, while EVs were way more expensive. And third, infrastructure. You could get gasoline pretty much anywhere, but a lot of rural America didn't even have electricity, so charging an EV was impossible outside of the city. And just like that, poof, the electric car was gone. It became a weird little footnote in history books, a cool what-if story. That is, until the world started getting really concerned about pollution and climate change, and we had to start looking for an alternative. And that brings us to the great EV comeback tour. But this time around, it wasn't about being quiet or convenient. No, this was driven by a completely different and much bigger set of global priorities. And here's the why. This is absolutely crucial. In the United States, transportation is the single biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions, the biggest slice of the pie. With our cars and trucks being the main culprits, the pressure to find a zero-emission solution became huge. Suddenly, that old, forgotten idea of an electric car looked brand new again. Okay, so how does a modern EV actually do its thing? At its heart, it's actually way simpler than a gas car, but it has a few key components that have to work together perfectly to turn electricity into motion. Let's pop the hood, so to speak. It all starts with the battery. That's your fuel tank. An inverter then takes the DC power from that battery and flips it into the AC power that the motor needs. That electric motor is the star of the show. It's what actually spins the wheels. And finally, you have an onboard charger that lets you juice the battery back up. Simple, right? Super efficient and no tailpipe. But look, going all electric isn't a perfect fit for everybody, at least not yet. Range anxiety is a real thing, and waiting for a car to charge can be a hassle. And that brings us to the compromise solution that has dominated the last couple of decades, the hybrid. At its core, a hybrid is exactly what you think it is, a car that uses both a gasoline engine and an electric motor. The goal is to get the best of both worlds, the long range and quick fill-ups of gas, and the awesome efficiency of electric. But, and this is a big but, not all hybrids are created equal. You can basically think of them in three main flavors. First, you have a mild hybrid, which just gives the gas engine a little electric boost to help out. Then there's the full hybrid, like the classic Toyota Prius, that can actually run on pure electricity for short distances at low speeds. And finally, you have the plug-in hybrid, or PHEV. This has a much bigger battery that you can literally plug into the wall, letting you drive for dozens of miles on just electricity before the gas engine ever kicks in. So how do these actually work? Well, the simplest layout is a series hybrid. The best way to picture this is to think of a diesel-electric train. The gasoline engine has zero physical connection to the wheels. Its only job is to run a generator, creating electricity to power the motor that actually drives the car. That's it. The next type is a parallel hybrid. A great analogy here is a tandem bicycle. You've got both the gas engine and the electric motor hooked up to the wheels, and they can either work by themselves or they can team up and power the car together when you need some extra oomph. But the true masterclass in hybrid engineering is the series parallel system, which is what made the Toyota Prius so famous. It uses this ridiculously clever gearbox called a power split device. You can just think of it as a mechanical brain that can seamlessly blend the advantages of both the series and parallel systems, making it incredibly flexible and efficient. Let me show you what I mean. So here's where the magic happens in real time. When you're just starting off from a stoplight, it can use pure electric power from the battery for silent, smooth acceleration. But during normal driving, that little mechanical brain is constantly making decisions. It's sending some engine power to the wheels, maybe some to a generator to recharge the battery, and maybe it's using the battery to help the motor. It's this constant juggling act, and its only goal is to squeeze every last bit of efficiency out of your fuel. So, after a century-long detour, we've arrived right back at a big crossroads between electric, hybrid, and good old gasoline power. Let's break down the choices that you have on the table today. The choice today really just boils down to your personal trade-offs. All electric is the cleanest and cheapest to run, but you have to plan your life around range and charging. Plug-in hybrids can be the perfect sweet spot for a lot of people. You get pure electric for your daily commute, and you've got the gas engine for long trips, zero range anxiety. And full hybrids, they give you a simple, effective boost in fuel efficiency without you ever having to think about plugging it in. And that brings us to the big, multi-billion-dollar question for the next decade. As battery technology gets better and charging stations pop up on every corner, is the hybrid just a temporary bridge to an all-electric future? Or is this clever combination of gas and electric the smartest, most practical solution for the long haul? The truth is, that road is still being paved.